we paid our fixed expenses, the simulation goes on, and we buy some RMUs. So we got to include our interest, which we had to do for our interest payments before. All right. Then we paid our fixed expenses. We want to throw it in our summary sheet as well, because that's going to update our cash available up here. So I pay my fixed expenses. All right. I bought some agriculture. I bought some commerce, let's say. Maybe it cost me 4,300. Next thing I need to do is record this information. And there's a little bit of a trick to your RMU bids and the ledger. So if you go to your price info sheet, it actually tells you that there's this book worth for all of our assets, including all RMUs, which are $300 a piece. So when I bought 10 agriculture RMUs, I need to go and I need to, well, it's still January, so I'm going to start with the date. I am going to buy RMUs. Let's just call it agriculture RMUs. You can use any code or any acronym you want. I'm going to do agriculture RMUs. All right. And the first thing I do when I buy them is I actually receive them, right? Even before I pay them. My RMUs of the agriculture flavor are going up. I'm gaining them. All right. And since it's an asset, I'm going to gain it by debiting it. And I'm not going to, this is a really common mistake, I'm not actually going to gain RMUs of $6,000 value. I'm going to gain RMUs at their book cost, which is 300 each. And since I bought 10, I need to, well, you can do the math in here if you really want to. 300 times 10. That equals 300 times 10. $3,000 worth of RMUs. All right. Next, what do we got to do? So we have our RMUs now. How do we get them? Well, we actually received a bill. And that bill is our RMU purchases. Hogs RMU purchases. Starts with a 2. So it's a liability. It's a bill that I'm getting from the supplier of these agriculture RMUs, from the farmer, I guess. And that bill is actually going to be for the full amount that I bid. That's the full 6,000. That's the bill I get from the farmer. All right. So we got to go and we're crediting this liability because our bill amount is going up. We have a bill to pay. Credit your liability account, the full 6,000. You'll notice that we're still not balanced. All right. That isn't quite the end of it, but we got these. We got our bill. We're not going to pay for it quite yet. I guess you could, right? You could credit your $6,000 cash. But since the book value of what we gained is less than we paid, our company's actually taking a loss here. Another additional accumulated loss. These accounts starting with a 3, right? They're always going to be there to balance your ledger. All right. So if you feel like you're done a transaction and it's not balanced, probably because you're missing an equity account, either a retained earnings or an accumulated loss. All right. So when I actually lost this amount, my RMUs I gained were less than the bill that I received. All right. That should actually mean that my net worth goes down. So I need to debit my equity account. And I can use a little bit of a trick here. This number that's not balanced by, $3,000, negative 3,000, is actually the amount that I'm going to put in as my losses. That's one trick I can use. All right. If you can't see that or you're not thinking like that, another trick you could use is we're going to subtract one from the other. 6,000 minus 3,000. Again, it's still balanced. Or you could use the old calculator, pencil and pen method. But for every kind of section of my ledger, I need the debits and the credits to be balanced so that my ledger stays balanced. So 3,000 plus 3,000 equals 6,000. We're balanced. All right, we can call these all my agriculture RMUs. Do I actually pay for these now? Probably. That's probably a good next step. I got the bill. I hand them my Visa or some cash or something from my account. So that's going to get rid of $6,000 of cash. By credit, because cash is an asset, getting rid of cash means crediting an asset. $6,000 of my cash, and now my bill goes away. My RMU, cost of goods, $6,000 bill disappears, so it needs to be debited because our liability goes away or decreases with a debit. All right, that's actually it for my agriculture RMUs. And I'll show you, it's not actually always this slow, right? I'll go through the commerce ones at a bit of a quicker pace and see how you can do it too in no time. So these are going to be my commerce RMUs in January 01. All right, and it's going to be exactly the same as my agriculture, just with different numbers. So I'm going to just copy and paste this title down. I need to have the same number of rows. I can even copy and paste this, copy, paste, and then we go back to our summary sheet and we look at how many we got. They're 5, and a reminder, they all are worth 300, and we're gaining them, so we debit it, and it's going to equal 5 times 300. All right, how much did I pay for it? My summary sheet says 4,300. That's going to be my bill, which is a credit. Then it's out of balance. I can read up here, it's 2,800, or I could go 4,300 minus 1,500. But either method gives me an additional accumulated loss of $2,800. Right, and then we have to pay our bill, so we get rid of our cash. The full bill amount, 4,300, and my bill goes away by the full amount, 4,300, by debiting that liability. All right, we did it. We bought our RMUs and we recorded them. Now we need to do something with them to sell them, namely convert them. All right, so one thing you can do at this point, if you've entered this in your summary sheet, even if you haven't done the ledger live time during the simulation, right? This is something you can do in pauses or breaks or after school. But the summary sheet is something you want to do immediately, because if I go up, I can now see how many RMUs I have to work with. And it's kind of weird because it's going to show in the February, all right? Because that's what I started January with. This is what I would start February with